Hi, I'm John Gerzema with the Harris Poll, and I'm so excited to be with my friend Samantha Maltin, the Chief Marketing Officer at St. Jude.
It's so great to be with you.
Samantha, why don't you start and tell us just a little bit about St. Jude?
Yes, well, for those who don't know, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is a world-class research and science institution and patient care facility that treats pediatric cancer and other catastrophic diseases. And we have been working to increase the survival rates. Since the hospital opened in 1962, we've actually been able to increase those rates from 20% to 80%.
That is remarkable. That is just amazing. How has that come about? Like, it's just been obviously incredible support from partners, and how did you make those sorts of milestones?
From partners and from generous donors, and we share the research and protocols that are done in Memphis at the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital with over 400 institutions around the world.
Okay.
So all of our knowledge is shared, and now we actually have a global medicines launch, and we are physically getting cancer medicines into different countries because the survival stats are reversed internationally. So 1 out of every 5 children do not survive. So our goal is to be in 50 countries by 2030, and we are well on our way.
That's an incredible, ambitious mission and vision. I mean, talk to us a little bit about that, because I know at the core of what St. Jude is about is this amazing, magical word, hope, right?
Yes, and hope is such a fundamental part of the journey that our patients and their families have. And so that's why we were so excited to do this Hope Imperative study, because we wanted to really understand, not just in times of trauma, but every day, what is the state of hope for Americans today, and how can we begin to track that over time? So I think about the Hope Imperative like an index, like the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report.
Exactly. Yeah, amazing. I mean, what I thought was so interesting, Samantha, about the data was obviously this is a really challenging time in a macro world with the news and everything that's sort of going on. And yet at the same time, 9 in 10 people in America, American citizens, said that, how could you live without hope, right? So
it is such an essential need state, human need state.
Right.
And it's also part of our whole operating model at St. Jude. No family pays for treatment, travel, housing, or food so that they can afford to let their child live and just focus on them so they can afford to hope.
See, I didn't know that before we got to know each other. That is an incredible sort of driving aspect of the mission and values of this company. So how does that come about? Is that then relies on corporate sponsors and partners and donors?
Yes,
That's
we are
so generous. Yeah.
fueled through all of our corporate partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
We rely on devoted donors, our partners in hope. We actually call them our partners in hope, who have given anything from $19 a month to much, much more.
What I thought was interesting too about the study, kind of tying back to that, what you just said, Samantha, is this idea around hope isn't just aspirational, it can also be really sort of practical or snackable, right?
Yes, it was really interesting to learn from the study. Hope is really made up of these small interactions, these small actions that
Gestures,
are your rituals of the day, right? Just doing something for someone, checking in on a loved one, making a meal, and the easiest way to inspire and to build hope is to give back.
And people actually found hope and felt better by giving, right? I thought that was such an interesting aspect of the research.
Yes. And I think what is so meaningful for them is when they see the impact that they have. That is truly what builds more hope and what we learned.
Right, exactly. So if you think about sort of the future, you talked about global expansion. We're going to sort of really go after pediatric cancer around the world. How do you start to think about where you're going to take St. Jude supporting the cause from a marketing standpoint?
Yes, well, what's so important is we are focused on sharing our research and knowledge to the broadest possible set, and now getting these medicines into these different countries. The number one determinant of whether a child survives is where they live, and that should not be the case.
That's I didn't know that. So basically, you've got this incredible challenge ahead with all these different countries and markets, and yet, as at least what we've seen out of the data from the United States side, and the progress that you guys are making, there seems to be like a really big push and excitement for the future.
Yeah, so these insights that we learned in the study, we are really trying to build them into our messaging. We know we need to reach people, and that is a emotional need state that's so important to tap into. If we can inspire them to give back and to understand what's needed today.
Yeah. I think what's so interesting about this is we talked earlier about sort of how challenging the world is today and the news cycles. We found in a recent Harris poll that 57% of people were not watching the news in order to stay and improve their mental health. But your brand and your organization, your mission, like stands in stark contrast to that. So in a way, it's really strong differentiation, right?
Yes, people feel better when they feel they can make a difference, right? And that's what we learned from the study, that having an impact and seeing their impact is what increases their sense of hope and their sense of stability.
Yeah. So if you took hope as the operating model for the company, how does that impact the values, the internal culture, the way you work with families?
Hope is built into everything we do. We are focused on supporting the child and the family and their entire circle of care from every aspect.
Okay. So one of the other things we know, Samantha, in the Harris poll data is that consistently, reputationally, St. Jude is always in the top 5, sort of top 10 in our studies. So there seems to be a correlation between hope and trust.
Absolutely. We are fortunate to be the most trusted brand, as evidenced by the Morning Consult study. And that is, we take that very, very seriously.
Yeah.
That reputation is paramount. That is why we have such generous, devoted donors. And we feel very strongly that trust is paramount, and trust really inspires love. And hope is an emotional need state that we're tapping into in all of our messaging now in our campaigns. We are shifting a bit of our approach to reach people so that they're really understanding this is a tradition, these are rituals, these are habits that can really help you feel good. Giving back is an action. Hope can be a practice.
Yeah. No, and talk to me then about channels of hope, especially with younger consumers. We're seeing Gen Z in particular. They're obviously highly attuned to St. Jude in the sense that they're supporting brands with purpose and brands with values.
Yes, you said it. You know that Gen Z is, they care about the values that a brand and a mission has. It's incredibly important that they see themselves in your mission and share those common core values. And so for us, obviously, that's easy because who doesn't want to help cure cancer and help children around the world?
Exactly. And as a marketer, how do you think about those younger audiences in terms of engagement? Are you looking at new channels to reach Gen Z? Absolutely.
We have to be where they are. We have to show up in all of the places and spaces that people are. And we've been around since the 60s, and we began in DRTV, and that was and remains an incredibly effective medium for us. We have to tell stories across all the mediums that you're hearing about here, AI-powered platforms throughout connected TV. Experiential is a huge part of what we do, and our creator strategy. We have had to really be thoughtful and strategic about brand ambassadors and who is representing St. Jude around the world on our behalf. So there's many creators here that we're having conversations with who have been so devoted to helping really help fundraise for St. Jude.
Wow, you're going nonstop this week, right?
You are too.
Yeah, no, exactly. So we established earlier that hope makes people feel good by giving and donating. How do donors support St. Jude?
There are so many ways to support St. Jude. Of course, anyone can go to our website, stjude.org. We have many events, hundreds of events across the United States, from bike-a-thons to marathons, run clubs, music, whatever your passion or your affinity, there is a St. Jude touch point that we are building.
Amazing, Samantha. Last question, what gives you hope?
That is a really great question. My family,
Yeah.
my children, my husband. My children are 8 and 9,
Oh,
and
that's a fun age.
they are just the most optimistic little people. And when I see them and with my husband, I feel hope.
That's amazing. Samantha Maltin, the Chief Marketing Officer at St. Jude Children's Hospital. Thank you so much. It was so great to see you.
Thank you
for all
for
the great
having
work you're
me.
doing.
Thank you.